Don't go back home.
Saying that, my grandmother tightly grasped my arm.
The child is in your belly is frightened. It's dangerous. Don't go back.
I had returned to my parents' home to announce my pregnancy. My family had celebrated, and it was time for me to return to my husband's home. That was when my grandmother made her plea. Grandma, what's wrong? My grandmother had advanced dementia and shouldn't have recognized me. I was perplexed as my grandmother, who always just gazed out into the garden, suddenly raised her voice. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'll come back again. Today was my wedding anniversary with my husband. I had been thinking about buying a cake to take home. I felt sorry for my grandmother, but I didn't have time to listen to her ramblings in her condition.
No, someone stop her, please.
I left my parents' home with a sense of guilt at my grandmother's desperate state. Later, I regretted it instantly. If I had believed my grandmother's words, I could have avoided such a frightening situation. The story goes back a little while. I'm just an ordinary housewife, married to Sam for 5 years. We had been trying to have a child since the beginning of our marriage, so this year I thought we could celebrate a wonderful 5th anniversary. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. One of the problems was that we started fighting more often after the pregnancy was confirmed. Of course, my morning sickness and anxiety were also contributing factors. I was confused by the situation of having a life other than my own growing inside me, and I couldn't be sane about it. What's more, the problem was not only my nervousness, but also Sam's. At first, I thought he was feeling anxious and nervous about my pregnancy, as I had heard that men tend to feel that way in these situations. I wanted to face it with Sam, even if we clashed. Unfortunately, it seems that Sam didn't share my thoughts. He was more nervous about my role as a housewife than our child. Previously, he rarely complained about my housework. I thought that, being a somewhat careless person, he wouldn't mind if I slacked off a bit. However, since I became pregnant, he complained about me not being able to do chores smoothly.
Don't slack off. Just because you were pregnant.
He would complain about everything, like the seasoning being too strong or the laundry having wrinkles. I admit there are times when my husband is right, and I hadn't done things properly. However, it's frustrating to be criticized when he was never experienced morning sickness. Honestly, there are times when I'm not thorough enough, and not being cutting corners with household chores from time to time. I thought we worked so well together because we're both a bit sloppy with chores. If he had complained from the start, it would have been one thing. But why did he suddenly change his attitude now? And why does he only bring this up now that I'm pregnant? Is it really all my fault? I wonder how other pregnant women manage their lives without causing troubles. While I keep asking myself these questions, Sam doesn't seem to reflect on his behavior at all. To make matters worse, he's began going out to eat and coming home drunk more often. Maybe he's also worried about having his first child. And maybe he's sorting out things because he's been holding back from being intimate at night due to my pregnancy. I try to overlook my husband's behavior, but my stress level was undoubtedly increasing. And there was one more thing weighing heavily on my mind: telling my family about my pregnancy. I told my parents about it over the phone, but I still needed to tell them in person. However, I had distanced myself from my family for personal reasons and hadn't visited them in a long time. My parents, aunt, and grandmother lived there, with my grandfather having passed away over a decade ago. Although I get along well with my parents and aunt, I've never been particularly close to my grandmother. In fact, my grandmother has a strange ability that has caused me bitter memories since childhood. She has prophetic dreams about her blood relatives. She doesn't deliberately see the future like in anime or manga. Sometimes, she just suddenly has a prophetic dream. But for some reason, she can distinguish it from a regular dream. In reality, some relatives have succeeded in their business or avoided danger because of her dreams. When I was a child, I was fascinated by the fairy tale-like events I heard about, and I admired my grandmother for using her power to help people. But children can be cruel. And when I told my friends about it, I was immediately branded a liar. If she had such a useful power, why couldn't she save me? Of course, I now understand that my grandmother was not at fault, and that ultimately I was the one to blame. So, since then, I didn't know how to interact with my grandmother anymore. Over time, I became distant from my family and rarely visited home. Eventually, my grandmother developed dementia, and I was never able to apologize or explain myself to her. Now, on a happy occasion, I returned home to visit my family. I didn't want to feel guilty anymore, so I went to see my grandmother. When I arrived, my parents and aunt welcomed me warmly. But my grandmother just stared out the window, saying nothing. According to my aunt, she had been like this lately. "Hi, Grandma. I'm home." I spoke to my grandmother, but there was no response from her. After that, I updated my parents and aunt on my recent news, from my pregnancy to complaints about my husband, and trivial things. Recently, I have been at odds with Sam, so talking to someone like this gave me a sense of relief. I thought it was a good decision to come here. If I ever feel anxious again, coming back to my parents' house might be a good idea. And if I'm lucky, I might be able to see Grandma when she's conscious. We chatted and laughed, and before we knew it, time had flown by, and the sun was setting. Oops, it's already this late. Actually, today is my wedding anniversary, and I was planning to buy a cake on my way back to celebrate with my husband. If we take the time to have a proper conversation as a couple, maybe my husband's attitude will soften. Well, I have somewhere to stop by, so I'll be going soon. Then, just as my parents got up to see me off,
You can't leave.
during the time we were chatting, my grandmother, who had been staring at the garden in silence, suddenly spoke up. We fell silent together. My aunt asked her in a surprise,
What's wrong, Mom?
but my grandmother didn't say anything in return. It's not like my grandmother never talks at all, but she might have had a moment of consciousness. I can't say I'm not curious about what my grandmother said, but it's our wedding anniversary today, so I want to go home soon. When I tried to leave, my grandmother spoke up again.
No. The child is frightened of your husband.
Child? Husband? What on earth is she talking about? Apparently, when you have dementia, past memories can come back vividly. Maybe she's mistaken something. Or could it be that strange ability of hers? I had a bad feeling about it. Thoughts about that came to my mind, and I wanted to leave the place right away. The memory of being looked down upon as a liar and strange by everyone flashed back. I didn't want to get involved with my grandmother anymore. I said goodbye quickly and left my parents' house and returned home where Sam was already back from work. I forgot to buy a cake on my way back, and I was preoccupied with what my grandmother said. Anyway, I have to prepare dinner now. Hey Sam, I'm sorry. I went to my parents' house today. I'll make dinner right away. Then, my husband showed a different attitude than usual. Normally, he would sit at the table and watch TV until the meal was ready. But he came into the kitchen this time. Then he put his hands on my waist and tried to touch me. I was surprised by his sudden action. But honestly, I am happy that he sees me as a woman. But it's not possible now. The doctor told me not to engage in such activities during this time. Sam, I'm sorry, but it's not okay. Not now. I said that. But he didn't seem to want to leave me. Furthermore, he grabbed my arm and tried to move me from the kitchen to the bedroom. Until now, Sam had never forcefully grabbed my arm like this before. Suddenly, he felt like a stranger rather than my husband, and I was scared. I desperately tried to get away from my husband, but he still didn't back down. I couldn't do anything and found myself shouting for help. That was when it happened. Suddenly, the sound of the entrance opening could be heard, and someone came in.
What are you doing, Sam?
That was my father who pulled Sam away from me. My mother was beside him. Mom, Dad, why are you here? I asked the two of them.
Your grandmother told us.
The truth is this. Ever after I went home, it seemed that my grandmother had raised her voice many times at home.
The baby is in her belly is in danger. It's frightened of the husband. The husband is evil.
My aunt thought that my grandmother's words were clear, and that her consciousness was the clearest it had been in recent times.
Mom, maybe you had a prophetic dream?
My aunt told my parents and asked them to keep an eye on me.
You! What were you trying to do to my daughter?
My father yelled at Sam.
No, it's a misunderstanding. Shut up. Are you trying to harm your pregnant wife? Do you want a divorce? Divorce? No, please.
Sam said, bowing to my father. I considered defending Sam because he was only trying to invite me out, and the timing was bad. But when I thought about explaining it to my parents, my grandmother's words came to mind. The child is afraid of Sam. The child is in danger. As I thought about it one by one, dots began to connect in my head. Sam, show me your phone.
Huh?
Sam responded foolishly, ignoring his confusion. My father took his phone and I thoroughly checked it.
Hey, what are you doing?
Sam tried to take the phone back from me, but my father held him down. And I found the answer I was looking for. It was a conversation history with his lover. Frankly, I had a vague sense that Sam was cheating. After 5 years of marriage, it wasn't strange for such things to happen. But I trusted that he would do his duty as a father when the child was born, and didn't pursue it deeply. So why did I bring up his infidelity at this timing? It was because I sensed his intentions in his actions since I became pregnant. His attitude towards things he didn't care about before became nitpicky, and he even tried to prevent me from taking a break from my housework. And he even tried to approach me in an inappropriate timing. I assumed that the safe birth of our child was inconvenient for him. I looked at his phone, assuming that his infidelity was connected to his inconvenience. The name of his lover was Tess, and their conversation history was nauseatingly lovey-dovey. In it, there was even a plan for the two of them to run away with my inheritance when my grandmother died. They were just ridiculous. And apparently, Tess tried to end the relationship when Sam told her about my pregnancy. At this point, it became clear what Sam was up to. Sam, were you trying to prevent me from having a child? The reason you constantly caused me excessive stress was for that, right?
What? I would never.
So that you wouldn't have to break up with that woman named Tess, right? Sam falls silent, seemingly realizing the truth of my words.
What? Did you try to harm not only Dana, but also the child in her womb? You bastard! What the hell were you thinking?
My father grabs Sam by the collar and shakes him. I never thought that. In our 5th year of marriage, I would discover my husband's despicable side in this way. But now that I know, things cannot continue as before. I glare at Sam with contempt and delivery my final words. I'm divorcing you. I cannot be with someone who cannot love the child. I don't care where you go, whether it's with Tess or anyone else. Of course, I'll be asking for compensation, so be prepared. I say this and leave with my parents, leaving my husband to hang his head in shame. Later on, I serve him divorce papers through a lawyer. As expected, he did not complain and accepted all of our terms. I seek compensation from both Sam and his lover Tess. Sam seems to have at least tried to get with Tess, but it seems that she had already lost interest in him. She paid me compensation in one lump sum and disappeared. As for what happened to my ex-husband after that, I have no idea. As long as he doesn't fall behind on his payments, I don't care about that man anymore. As for me, for now, I decide to return to my parents' house until my child is born. My baby is growing healthily inside me, and living with my parents is a huge relief. I express my gratitude to my grandmother for helping me and apologize for having kept her away due to my lack of strength. My grandmother is still gazing at the garden, as usual, affected by her dementia. I wonder if she understands me. Feeling a little disappointed, I murmur to myself, and then, "Sweetheart, your child will grow up healthy." There was my grandmother, smiling at me and looking into my eyes. It was a brief moment, but I was sure that my grandmother understood me. "Yeah, thank you, Grandma. I'll raise a healthy child. I love you." I take my grandmother's hand, which was looking towards the garden again, and feel the warmth of the sunset next to her.
It's not fair. Who do you think you are? My husband baked a birthday cake for me. My mother-in-law screamed at the sight of it and started licking all over the cake. How vulgar. No, Mom, stop it! I froze, and my husband desperately tried to stop her. It was too late. After eating half of the whole cake, albeit a small one, she breathed heavily and glared at me. I can't believe my precious son would bake a cake for you. You're less than a servant. Her birthday isn't worth celebrating. Anyway, he's my son. He is mine. Marriage doesn't change anything. Remember that. She threw her fork on the floor and puffed out her chest triumphantly. I turned to my husband. Oh, shoot! He was carrying his head in his hands. What's going on? When he was about to say something, my mother-in-law's eye rolled back and she collapsed to the floor. The story goes back some time ago. Marcus and I fell in love at work. He had joined this company the same year as me, and we hit it off right away. We were both big fans of baseball games, and often went out to the stadium on our days off. It didn't take long for us to become romantically involved. We got married when I was 26. Marcus took the opportunity of our marriage to change jobs. We felt a little awkward working in the same office and the same department. He wanted to take on a new challenge in a different industry that he had always been interested in. Although everyone at the office was disappointed to hear the news, Marcus was determined to pursue his new path. Our colleagues gave us their heartfelt blessing on our marriage and sent Marcus off with their best wishes. It wasn't just them. Friends and family were also exhilarate about our marriage. Well, except for one person. Hey, Ivy, the mirror in the bathroom is dirty again. It's a place for grooming, but you're not very conscious about it. Okay.
What's with your attitude? Come on, hurry up and clean it. I wonder why Marcus changed his job for a useless person like you.
In her mind, it was my fault that he had to change his career. I knew it was pointless to explain, so I headed for the bathroom in silence. The mirror had some water stains, and that was it. If I had told her it was nothing, I knew she would have been furious with me, so I wiped it clean. The main problem after marriage was my mother-in-law Betsy. She divorced her ex-husband when Marcus was still young and raised him by herself. Perhaps that was why she was more overprotective of him than usual. She even insisted we live only 2 subway stops away from where she lived. She visited us every weekend and criticized me. Eventually, she started coming over even when Marcus was out. He picked up on some hobbies and often went out with new friends on his days off. Even though I told her he wasn't at home, she kept showing up, and I had no choice but to entertain her. When the mirror was wiped clean, I heard her calling me for some other task. With a grunt, I headed for the living room to see what was next.
I'm home.
By the time I heard Marcus' carefree voice, it was already evening. The house was spotless from top to bottom, thanks to all the things Betsy had me do.
Oh, you're back.
She rushed to the door. She took off his jacket and walked into the living room with him. Hi, honey.
Hey, I brought you some sweets. Oh, you are so thoughtful. These are for Ivy and...
Before he could finish, Betsy took out patisseries from a paper bag and began munching them. As we watched her without saying a word, she noticed us and made a sulky face.
Let me be. It's only fair that I get treated the same way as Ivy.
She acted like a child, but I was in no mood to argue with her. I signaled Marcus with my eyes, and we let her do whatever she wanted to do. When I went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, he followed me for some reason. I needed him to keep an eye on Betsy. What's up?
Sorry, I was told to attend a meeting with a client on Monday.
Really?
Yeah, I got a call from my boss earlier.
He sounded apologetic because it was my birthday on Monday, and we were supposed to go out for a nice dinner. We had decided a long time ago that we would take a day off and spend it together. Well, if he was told to work then, that was that.
I'm really sorry. I will make it up to you later, I promise.
Don't worry.
I will cook you something special.
Then, Betsy popped up in the kitchen. Before she could ask us what was going on, Marcus took her back to the living room. I was disappointed, but told myself to let go and started cooking dinner. It was the following night when the harsh reality hit me. Marcus had to prepare for the meeting and was coming home late. As I was getting ready for bed, I received a message and pictures from a colleague who was on maternity leave. I opened the app without thinking much and was met with an eye-opening text and a few images. Sorry, it's so late. This is Marcus, right? I saw him while I was shopping. There were pictures of him and an unknown woman sitting next to each other at the cafe. Images were of them happily feeding a cake to each other on a terrace and snuggling up. All of them were inexcusable evidence. Seeing him in a suit, they must have met during a break from work. I couldn't sleep that night. I thought about ignoring him, but if he sensed something was up, it might have hindered me from getting more proof. I had to find out more about the woman, no matter what it took. I decided to act as normal as possible and tried not to show my anxiety on my face. Then, the day before my birthday, he said he was going to meet a friend and left the house as usual. 5 minutes after I saw him off, I went out as well. I walked quickly toward the station. I had a hunch that he would take the subway. It was a 10 minutes walk from my house to the station, so if I hurried, I would be able to catch up with him. As I was walking, unpleasant thoughts kept swirling around in my head. I was sure that all his previous outings had been to meet the woman. If so, the affair had started 6 months ago. Why? Was he unhappy in his marriage? I was the only one who thought we were doing well. As I was walking and wiping away my tears, I spotted him. He got on the subway and got off after 3 stops, and I followed him. After working for a while, he went into a small pastry shop. I wondered what in the world he was doing there. Then I saw a woman in an apron come out of the kitchen. It was her in the pictures. I hurried to photograph of the exterior of the shop and of them making out. Then I left as fast as possible. After I returned home, I did some housework to distract myself. I took pictures, but didn't know what to do with them. Eventually, the sun went down, and I had dinner with Marcus as usual when he returned. The day was over in a flash. That night, I noticed that Marcus, who was sleeping next to me, had left the bed. The phone on his bedside table was also gone. I wondered if he was going to call his lover. I got out of bed too. He was doing something in the dark kitchen, relying only on the light from the refrigerator. The suspicious movements scared me, so I turned on the light and called out to him. Then a paper bag fell from his hand. The name of that pastry shop was printed on the bag. I felt my blood run cold.
Oh shoot, you called me. I wanted to make it a surprise for you by looking in a fridge tomorrow.
He was holding a small-sized whole cake. The chocolate plate on top of it had a writing, "Happy birthday, my love." The poor handwriting must have been his. He had taken the trouble to write it by himself when he should have left it to the chef. I was sure he didn't want his lover to know about my existence. Moreover, he wanted me to eat the cake that she baked.
Happy birthday, honey. Since you are here, do you want some?
Thanks, but not now. I will save the fun for tomorrow.
Yeah, it's late for a cake.
I didn't want to eat it at all, though I couldn't tell him that. I was too lazy to withdraw my request for a day off, so I stayed home alone on my birthday. After seeing Max off, I sank into the sofa. I pondered what I was going to do. I had to think, but my brain was foggy, and I couldn't think straight. Then suddenly, the doorbell rang. I looked to see who it was, and saw Betsy standing there looking grumpy. She was the last person I wanted to see right then, but I couldn't just ignore her. I opened the door with a heavy heart. As soon as she saw me, she told me to clean the front porch because it was messy. I told her to let me get her a drink first, but she brushed me off. She didn't want it and just wanted me to get to cleaning right away. I returned inside the house after about half an hour and didn't find her in the living room. There was a noise coming from the kitchen. I went to check and found her in front of the fridge. Betsy? Startled by my voice, something fell to the floor. It was my birthday cake that was more than half gone. She apparently found it and ate it without asking me. She had snatched sweets that Marcus had bought for me before, but it was shocking to see her eating my birthday cake. When I was totally stunned, her face turned red.
What are you staring at? It means nothing to me that you're married to Marcus. He's my only son, and he's always mine.
She screamed at me with whipped cream around her mouth. What lay crumbled on the floor was what used to be my birthday cake. The writing on the sheet of chocolate was almost illegible. It was a whole cake, albeit a small one. She ate more than half of it by herself. It wasn't that she loved the cake so much, but more like she couldn't stand my existence. When I remained silent, she threw her fork down on the floor.
I raised him all by myself. I can't allow you to take him away from me. I know him better than you do.
She fell to her knees, covering her face, and began to cry hysterically. Calm down, Betsy.
Don't touch me. I don't need your sympathy.
She shook my hand off, and I fell on my bottom from the push. I couldn't stay silent any longer, and I clenched my fist.
His lover made that cake. What?
That's why I couldn't eat it. Here is the proof. The moment I showed her the pictures, she mumbled,
"Oh, dear God,"
and collapsed. I rushed to pick her up, but she seemed to have passed out. Her body was limp. I managed to carry her to the sofa and clean up the remnants of the cake. I didn't know what to do, but Marcus wasn't answering his phone. I called his office and was told a shocking truth.
Marcus? He's not in today.
I thought he had a meeting with a client.
No, he requested a day off. Oh, but you didn't know.
He was about to say something, but I hung up the phone. In the meantime, Betsy opened her eyes. When I handed her a glass of water, she covered my hand that was holding the glass with both of her hands. I had never gotten such a gesture from her before.
Is it true what you said?
Yes, I have other evidence. When I showed her the pictures of my colleague had sent me, she let out a deep sigh. That night, as soon as Marcus opened the front door, she stood up to face him. I followed her and saw her standing firmly in front of him.
You have something to say, don't you?
What happened? Why are you mad at me?
Ivy, the pictures.
I hurriedly showed my phone screen to him. He agitated for a moment, but then put a fake smile on his face.
Oh, she's one of my clients who's friendly with me. It's kind of a sales technique.
Marcus, be honest.
I'm sorry.
He knelt on the spot and began to confess. I was right about them meeting on the weekends for the last 6 months. He asked her to bake her cake, lying that he would eat it himself. The writing was done by him, as I guessed. While listening to him talking, tears were streaming down Betsy's face.
I just wanted to have some fun. Honey, you will forgive me this much, right?
You know that your dad and I divorced because of his infidelity, right?
Yes.
And yet, you're pathetic for hurting Ivy this way.
I gently rubbed her trembling back. He just kept apologizing. A month later, I'm in my spacious house talking with Betsy.
I'm so sorry. I apologize for Marcus' infidelity and for the way I have been treating you.
It's okay now. His affair is his own problem.
No, I was too attached to him. I thought you were taking my only son away from me, and that made me feel lonely. My attitude got to his head and made him act like a fool.
After that incident, I filed for divorce. He tried to continue the relationship with the lover, but I sent her a note with a copy of my marriage certificate, which ended their relationship. She wasn't aware that he was married and immediately dumped him. Because of the call I made to his office, the rumor of his infidelity and divorce spread at his work. He is still working there, being shamed by his coworkers.
What are you going to do now?
I'm selling this house and getting a new place. I want to start over from scratch.
I hear you.
Please come visit my new house if you like. I will let you know when I settle in.
Thank you, my dear.
I'm still hurt, but I'm sure that this event has some meaning. I will try my best little by little to make it a funny story someday. The gentle light of the sun through the windows shines on us. You didn't know anything about this? My mom friend and her husband froze when I said that.
It's not a matter of I didn't know. Just apologize. I'm so sorry.
The two of them got down on their knees to apologize. What followed was an epic battle between this couple. My name is June. I'm a 50-year-old housewife. My husband runs an IT-related company. We met through an arranged marriage. My parents and my husband's parents were golfing buddies. I graduated from college and worked my whole life, never dreaming of getting married. When I was over 40 years old, my parents were playing golf with my husband's parents, and they talked about their son, who, like me, had no dreams of getting married. They thought because of that, we might be a good match, and so we went on a blind date. That was how I met my husband Trevor. He was honest, kind, and dedicated to his work. He started his own IT company, and his hobbies were his job and mountain climbing. I was also in love with my work and enjoyed mountain climbing. As a result, we hit it off well and ended up getting married at the age of 45. I became a stay-at-home wife to support his hard work and help him with his business. Thanks to his hard work, the company's business performance was on an upward trajectory. In our 5th year of marriage, we were able to move into a luxury apartment. On our wedding anniversary that year, my husband got me a wonderful present as someone who didn't have children. He took out the pamphlet with a title that said, Rescue Dogs, Adopt a Dog Event.
My dream is to take a dog mountain climbing. I was hoping to foster a dog.
To my husband, I replied, I totally agree. We can own dogs in this apartment, so let's go to the adoption event this weekend. I answered him with a smile. So we went to the adoption event this weekend. The venue was filled with many dogs and people. Then, a certain dog clung to our feet. He had droopy ears, big eyes, and fluffy brown fur. He was a 1-year-old boy.
Oh man!
My husband seemed happy.
It seems that he likes you. This dog doesn't usually like people, so that means you guys are special.
The clerk told us. Upon closer inspection, the dog looks quite smart too.
Special, huh? Would you like to be a part of our family?
With that, the dog joined our household. We named him Chiro. I wanted Chiro to have friends, and most of all, I wanted to go out somewhere with him. I decided to take him to our dog park that was a famous members-only facility in the neighborhood. I was surprised when I brought him there. It looked more like a theme park. Let's play! When I invited him to join me, he ran out with a happy look on his face, and we had fun and played around until we met a group of people. As we were having fun, I noticed a group of people looking at us. My motto is to smile and be pleasant in such situations, so I smiled at them. I was a little freaked out and froze while keeping a smile on my face.
Hello.
The people in the group greet me. Hi there. This is my first time at this dog park. I returned the greeting. Some of the tension dissipated as we chatted lightly. This group of people were all owners of expensive-looking dogs. One of them was a bossy mom with her brand bags, expensive clothes, and long curly hair, and she seems to be in charge of the group.
This is my Chihuahua, Coco. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My name is June. This is Chiro. He's a year old.
Would you like to have coffee with us at the cafe?
I really didn't want to go, but if I want to continue to attend this dog park, I need to join this group of moms. Sensing this, I decided to go along with them quietly. The boss mom bragged to the entire group while we had coffee. I wondered how anyone could listen to such a boastful story.
My husband is an executive at a well-known IT company.
My husband is also. While I was responding, she interrupted me.
Oh, he works for a very large company. I don't think he's on the same scale as your husband's company.
She wouldn't let me talk at all. Well, I agree with her statement, but I didn't speak at that time. Erica's comments continue.
That's why clothes rarely cost less than $1,000. After all, isn't a wife's dignity important?
And when she found out I didn't have children,
that must be so sad. My eldest son is in soccer and is learning Chinese, and my eldest daughter won a piano contest and is taking ballet lessons. I'm really filled with the joy of raising children. Well, I have a super hard schedule every day.
Everyone nodded their heads in agreement, so I nodded my head and said, yes, I guess so. After this, her bragging went on for several hours. I thought about switching to another dog park, but I had only been there once, and seeing Chiro enjoying himself more than anything else, I thought I should just suck it up. Even the next time I went to the dog park, Erica continued to brag. This time, she talked about the dog's price tags.
My Coco cost $5,000. How much was Mocha?
Then Mocha's owner Ella said, she cost about $3,000. She's losing over Coco. Losing? What? Over the price? I was stunned to hear this. They are bragging about the prices for their precious pets. Shame on them. I cried out in my heart.
What about Chiro?
Well, actually, I adopted him. When I said this, the entire group went silent.
What? So you got him for free? Huh?
I got upset over those words. I don't care what anyone says. Chiro is the best dog in the world. He's my pride and joy. When I said this, there were squeals of laughter from all over the place. Among them, the boss mom says,
free? She said free?
And laughed out loud with her hands on her stomach, and everyone around her also burst into laughter. I would be going home then. I got up from my seat, feeling upset. Then Erica suddenly became angry with me in a shrill voice, as if she didn't like my attitude.
You are leaving before our tea party is over? Your dog is an abandoned mutt, isn't it? I don't like the fact that you take him to this dog park. Right, ladies?
The other moms nodded in unison.
Let me ask everyone this. Who is against this dog using this dog park from now on?
Me.
That settles it. Your dog is now banned from coming here. Ugly mongrels like him are out of place. It would be nuisance if he put dirty little germs on our precious dogs.
I was furious at their unreasonable response. I don't want to be a part of this. Are you even prepared to say such a thing to me? I took the first step toward the truth.
You're a sore loser. You're a bottom feeder. Anyway, you're banned.
I wanted to say something back to her, but the look in Chiro's eyes said, no more argument, so I just went home. We found our new dog park relatively quickly. It was a similar facility in our neighborhood. The dog park is also a volunteer organization for shelter dogs, and it has a homey atmosphere. And I didn't see any group of bossy moms. I also met a new mom friend. Her name is Sarah. She is a reporter for a magazine and is also a shelter dog owner. Her dog's name is Beth. We became friends because both of our dogs are former shelter dogs. We really hit it off and started talking about each other's families and work. One day, she told me, I'm going to be writing an article in a dog magazine called Puppy Heart. I will be writing about dogs in America. Would it be okay if I include Chiro in my article? Puppy Heart is a magazine that every dog owner knows about. It has many articles ranging from dog training to fashion. Is it okay for us to be included in such a prestigious project? I was worried, but she said of course. And so, Chiro made the cover for this month's Puppy Heart magazine. A few days after Puppy Heart was released, the doorbell rang at our house on a weekend. I checked the intercom monitor and saw Erica and a man claiming to be her husband standing there. My husband looked at the monitor and said that the man was Mr. Richards, one of the executives of my husband's company. When he opened the door, the general manager opened his mouth and said,
I am very sorry that my foolish wife has done something terrible.
He bowed deeply. I invited them in and asked them for more details. On the day Puppy Heart was released, Mr. Richards, who knew nothing about it, was reading an article about Chiro. His wife Erica saw it and said,
I know these people. She said this dog was a shelter dog and he was free. I banned her from the dog park, she said.
Do you know who these people are?
He turned pale.
What do you mean?
It's the wife of the president of my company and her dog. What the hell did you do?
What? The president's wife?
So that is what happened. So he immediately came to apologize.
Why didn't you tell me you were the president's wife?
She asked me with her face pale. How did you not know? Don't you at least know who the president of your husband's company is? But you know what they say. A still tongue makes a wise head. I don't have the hobby of showing off my husband's business or his position. I just didn't tell you on the spot. I looked at her in disgust, and she looked at me with a frozen expression.
It's not a problem that can be solved by saying you didn't know. Anyway, apologize. I am so sorry.
The two of them bowed down on their knees. But the next moment, to my surprise, Erica opened her mouth again.
Can we go now? We've apologized enough already.
I really didn't like her attitude. I don't think we need to see each other again, so please leave. I was furious, and the general manager kept his head down.
Please don't say that. Please continue to be friendly with my wife and Mr. President about the matter you mentioned.
He begins to say,
About your personnel matter? Yes. Can you withdraw it with this apology?
My husband's face turned red as he listened to him.
It was because of a whistleblower's accusation of improper dealings and embezzlement.
My husband revealed the truth.
What? A demotion? What's he talking about?
Erica stared at her husband after hearing the news. Then he said,
I heard there was a surefire way to make money, so I borrowed some of the company's money. I was going to pay it back as soon as I made a profit, but the company I invested in backed out and ended up taking the money from me. I'm really sorry, boss.
He confessed to everything.
I don't need your apologies.
My husband quietly began to give notice.
This embezzlement is very serious. You're going to get fired. What? Fired?
Mr. Richards then looked at his wife and started yelling at her.
This is what happens when I try to respond to your rough spending. You're the cause of this.
I beg your pardon? I wasn't just trying to do my best for you and the kids.
That's not what you call working hard.
The two of them were furious with each other, and I didn't know what was going on anymore. My husband called the security company, and they immediately sent a security guard to come and pick them both up. In the end, Mr. Richard was fired. In addition, a large amount of debts due to his gambling was also discovered. Erica, now that her luxury lifestyle had disappeared, divorced and returned to her parents' home with her children. She is looking for a job, but she is struggling to find one that fits her lavish lifestyle. A while later, when I was taking Chiro for a walk, I ran into the moms from the dog park. Hello! They were talking to me as if nothing had happened. I thought about ignoring them, but I held my guard and said, "Hello?" Then they said, "I'm so sorry. We regret what we did. We take back everything we have said so far." They apologized flatly. I didn't know what to say to them. One of the moms was also holding Erica's chihuahua. She told me that Erica was so furious with her husband's firing and spending that she had gone home to her parents, and poor Coco was abandoned by her. She was left at home with no one to take care of her. "I wish I could keep her at home, but we thought you might know of the shelter." Mocha's owner says she can't take care of both of them. Then, our Chiro came up to Coco, wagging his tail. "What's this?" I was surprised, and at the same time, I remember the day Chiro came to us. Chiro only gets close to a special person whom he likes, wagging his tail. Somehow, Coco seems to have taken a liking to Chiro. I decided to take her home right away. Of course, my husband agreed to take her in. The two dogs get along very well and play together all the time. They are the best of friends. The other day, I was working with them in the shopping street when I ran into Erica, and she began to say, "Coco, come here." She called out to her dog. At that moment, Coco jumped on her with a devilish look she had never shown before.
What the hell? You forgot the favor I did you by taking good care of you.
She talked to her dog in this way, so I responded, "That's not true. Your dog is angry because she had been betrayed by someone she trusted." I firmly retorted. On the way home, the cherry blossoms were in full bloom on the riverbed. How beautiful! Two animals playing with fluttering petals. I saw my husband coming to walk over to us.
I got done with work early today.
Happiness with two people and two dogs. I hope that this will continue for a long time.